Welcome back to the F1 2018 career mode here, guys, and you join me for the Season 2 Monaco Grand Prix. More development upgrades have come to the car, and you can see by the little chart there, Force India, who started the season equal with Haas, have now overtaken Mercedes and are right up behind our rivals, Renault. You can see there a more expanded view of the chart. Look at the developments we've made versus Haas and how far behind we were at the start of the season to Ferrari and Red Bull versus now. Huge gains have been made coming into Monaco, and it is one of my favourite tracks to drive. Most difficult circuit, or one of the most difficult circuits on the calendar, just avoiding trying to put it in the wall. And I said this in the end of last episode, getting from the Nouvelle chicane down through Ras Kass into the line, getting that correct is one of the most satisfying feelings that you can do on this F1 game. But nonetheless, we're now in qualifying, finishing up the first sector in our first run. You can see I'm being very aggressive with my braking points, trying to make up as much time as possible because I'm just awful on traction. Sainz goes fastest with a 1:10.3. We've got enough fuel to do 2 laps, but of course, the tyres that we use, you know, I don't want to abuse a set of tyres too much realistically. Verstappen then sets the pace with a 1:10.1, and of course that's faster than the pace we saw in the real life qualifying, as we did some questionable curb mounting at the Nouvelle chicane, but nonetheless, let's go through to back now. Not really on the limit, although we are only 2 tenths down versus Verstappen. And here we go through that final section, and again, clumping the curb into Ras Kass. We've gone not too bad through Ras Kass that time around. I've definitely gone deeper then through the Anthony Nogues corner, very wide. DRS open, up towards the line, max fuel extraction, and hot lap mode. It's a 1:10.6. It puts us provisionally P4 and only faster than the Sauber of Marcus Ericsson. So that was a disappointing lap time. Let's go one more time here. We're P13 come later in the session, and we're going to give it maximum attack this time around. We're really going to push this car and try and get the absolute best out of it. We're trying to get a good front end on it, to try and be able to point it through the corners here at Monaco, and then of course run out as wide as possible. We set the fastest first sector of the session so far by a 1/10.5, and we're over half a second up on my delta time of the previous lap there. We gave up a little bit of time on breaking into the Lowe's hairpin as we now come through the Nouvelle chicane once again, giving up a tiny little bit of time once again. So as the lap's gone on, it definitely hasn't gone exactly according to plan. But where is it going to put us come later on as we ride those curves? We're only a few tenths down. We have clipped the barrier though off the swimming pool. That's going to cost us a little bit through the final couple of corners. We're now 3-4 tenths up. Better run at the final corner. Max hot lap up towards the line. Where's it going to put us though? P5. Splitting the really high up the field McLarens of Van Dorn and Alonso. So I went for one more run at the end of the session, and annoyingly enough, you're just going to see it here. I haven't actually hit any barriers this time around, but sadly enough, we're not going to make any improvement on the session. Let's go to the race.
A proper road race, and in the true meaning of the word. That was how Mr. Monaco, the late great Graham Hill, once described this iconic event. The cars we drive have come a long way in the intervening half-century, but still we race on those same public roads beside the Mediterranean Sea. There's no victory more coveted than that of the Monaco Grand Prix. So before the off, let's remind ourselves of yesterday's qualifying session with a look at the starting grid. Young superstar Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and starting alongside him P2 is Sebastian Vettel. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Ricciardo, Raikkonen, Sergio Perez and Hülkenberg, Sainz, Bottas, Hamilton and Stoffel Van Dorn. The captain, Alonso, Romain Grosjean and Gasly, Magnussen. Hartley, Charles Leclerc and Lance Stroll, Sirotkin and Marcus Ericsson rounds off the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
No heroics into Saint-Devote, please. We're in amongst the pack and just need to stay in one piece.
Well, I definitely didn't end up where I wanted to. P11 for the Monaco Grand Prix is a little disappointing, but if you look at the car here, we've got, sorry, excuse me, 910 on the front, 9055 on the transmission. A lot more aggressive this time out. And then I've been a bit more aggressive with the camber and the toe on the vehicles, and just see the setup as I flick through it there. The benefit here is we get to create our own strategy for the Grand Prix, and that's exactly what I've done. We're going to be starting on the super soft tyre, the hardest tyre available to us, running deep into the Grand Prix and swapping to the ultra soft for the end, which I'm hoping is going to be the reverse of what everyone else is having to do, as we now have 5 red lights for the Monaco Grand Prix. Lights are out and we are underway. It's an okay start, but the grip of the super softs not quite there. Let's try and get the McLarens into turn 1. That's exactly what I've done. I'm now side by side, or was, with Hamilton, but he gets me on the acceleration. Him being on, while they are warm, they are still hyper soft tyres. Now going to have the most grip as we understeer through Massenet and the Casino Square as we now head down to the Mirabeau. First time of asking Hamilton, he slowly leaves the door wide open. I know I'm the Mercedes junior driver, but I'm going to stick my nose there. And now we've got Bottas there in 8th. Perez up the field nicely. He is currently P5, looking very tasty for a good result there is Sergio Perez, but we now come through Portier and into the tunnel for the first time. We're going to drop down the fuel and the ERS now, because I know I haven't got the pace of these top guys, especially on this tyre and with this car. So I effectively just need to manage my race now, especially that we're in clear air. A full team flat, nothing too awful, but you know, the guys on the hypers are either going to do one of two things. They're either going to pit early and go for a 2-stop for 2 sets of ultras, which means they're constantly fighting traffic, or they're going to try and stretch them a little bit and then go to supers to the end of the Grand Prix. So they are, you know, they have to make, and neither of those strategies is really ideal, so they have to make a bad strategy essentially. Whereas me, I can run on the supers all the way into lap 20s, you know, like 20, 21, 22, and then we'll be able to swap to the ultra soft tyre later in the Grand Prix. And we should then hopefully be faster. That's the idea, that's the plan. You can see now we're 7 laps in and the fronts are getting into the 10%. So nothing too bad. We passed Vettel, who's made his first pit stop of the race, and then we have Magnussen trying to get past me on the outside of turn 1. We're going to close him off there and make sure he definitely can't get past us. As we now move on, like I say, 7 laps already gone. This is our 8th lap of the Monaco Grand Prix. And you can see Magnussen following me on those, he must have started on those ultra soft tyres outside the top 10, because he is very close. As we now come through Portier now, we've not got a brilliant exit. And like I say, I'm very weak on traction around here. And Magnussen's definitely got a run on me through the tunnel. We're very close to the wall. Magnussen pulls alongside, but he brakes earlier. Down to the Novo chicane. We try and take that corner. Magnussen still with his nose in. Collision with Magnussen, and that's going to cause a safety car as Magnussen is beached on the inside of the Novo chicane. Let's take another look at it here. So I've made the corner, and I'm more than a car length. I think I was over a car length ahead of Magnussen as that incident happened. I think we had an issue here last year in the Williams in Season 1. Let's take a look at it from Magnussen, a slightly different camera angle. I'm well ahead, and he's, while pinched, he's definitely way more than half a car behind me. Look at this. Look, yeah. I don't know. It's a hard one to call, because I definitely took a lot of curb on the inside, but at the same time, Magnussen was a long way back. Now, interesting enough, that has meant we had to drive to a delta, and Kimi Räikkönen has dived into the pits. He was near the back of the front-running train of cars, and he has been able to dive in, change from hypers to ultra soft tyres, and get out ahead, and comfortably ahead, of Sebastian Vettel. Now, by the look of things, you have the front runners of Verstappen, Ricciardo, Perez, and they are now leading the field. I believe they're all still, at least Perez, at least definitely still on his hypersoft tyres at the end of lap 11 there. I've had an awful run out of Anthony Noakes. That's going to allow Vettel to have a supreme run on the outside up towards Sandevot. Is Vettel going to get the move done? No, he's not, but my car drifted through Sandevot, trying to get the tyres back up to temperature as we now head up towards the Mirabeau. Vettel is on our outside line. We're going to squeeze a slight bit of contact between the two cars, and that means Magnussen's going to try and muscle his way back through. He's still in 6th place, but no, Vettel able to retain the position, but not able to get past me. I can make this Force India as wide as the Monaco Grand Prix circuit if I have to, but now we've got the 3 cars in the lead, the 2 Red Bulls and my teammate Perez on very worn hyper soft tyres, and you've got Raikkonen there on fresh ultra soft. So we've now got excess fuel, and of course ERS has come back up since we've restarted the Grand Prix, and all the cars dive into the pits, both Red Bulls and Perez. So the the Red Bulls are going to have to double stack, and whoever the leader was, which I believe was Max Verstappen, that means Daniel Ricciardo has to sit behind his teammate while he gets service, and he's going to drop all the way to the back of the field. We've still got 27 laps remaining as well, so they're going to have to really stretch a set of super softs if that's what they go to. And that basically means that the race has been gifted to Kimi Raikkonen because he had already made a pit stop. We do a personal best first sector of the Grand Prix on lap 13. Raikkonen has, of course, disappeared into the distance. He's in the 1:12s, while I do a 13.8, like I say, a personal best, but nowhere near the pace of Kimi Raikkonen there. And we both have one pit stop left to make in this Grand Prix. So this race is effectively now Raikkonen's to lose. You can see the tyres are only starting to enter 20% on wear, but we've now got Vettel trying to overtake me again into turn 1. He's just got so much better traction at the final corner. Of course, DRS, but there's just no way through into Saint Devote. Your only real overtaking opportunity sometimes is into the Mirabeau, and then other times it's into the Neuville chicane outside of the tunnel. Daniel Ricciardo at the back of the field then sets the pace on a 1:12 flat, but you know, Red Bull have thrown away this race with their strategy call, and we're just driving around, keeping Vettel and Magnussen, who's very close to me actually, very much behind us as Vettel tries to have another go into turn 1 and another unsuccessful attempt made at trying to get past me. I'm just keeping an eye on everything. Of course, where it's Monaco, we're running an older engine, so we don't necessarily need the engine power, but what we don't need is a poor exit out of Portier, and that means Vettel's just going to breeze past us there through the tunnel and into the Neuville chicane. I've got to look, I'm going to dive it down the inside. I'm much more lenient than I was versus Magnussen, but Vettel's just got the superior traction out the corner. He's breezed past me on the way down to Tabac, and Magnussen tries to have a go down the inside. We're side by side through the swimming pool, and we just keep the position versus the Haas driver there. Magnussen, very opportunistic move as we were getting feisty with Sebastian Vettel, nearly ended our race in the wall, and Vettel with the superior traction. I moved over to pull into his slipstream, and then Magnussen tried to capitalise with a move down the inside, and you can see a couple of laps later Vettel was just disappeared into the distance. At this point in the Grand Prix, I am very slow. I'm one of the slowest cars on the circuit due to the worn tyres, but Magnussen now tries to go past down the inside of the chicane. We have to go very slow, utilise the curb, and Magnussen again, we've had another incident with Magnussen at the Neuville chicane, and that's going to cause a virtual safety car at this point. I can't recall, did I get a replay of what happened between me and Magnussen? I don't think I did, annoyingly, but a second incident in the Grand Prix with Magnussen at the chicane, and Perez now in for a second pit stop, so he clearly was going to go for a 2-stop. I don't know if he went for more hypers or ultras, but it effectively meant he had to pit one more time, and Perez has thrown away a potential good points opportunity. I'm not too sure what's going on with a lot of the strategies of the teams here, because Ferrari appear to have got it pretty bang on with Raikkonen and Vettel pitting them at the best times, because they're now 1-2 when it could have easily been the Red Bull guys. Bottas in P4 seems to have inherited a high result at some point here, but now we're pushing rich and hot lap mode as we come through the final sector. This is personal best sort of pace that we are currently on, as I'm just gingerly, I know that there's not a lot of grip in the car, so I could potentially slide if I wanted to. We nearly put it in the wall in Rascasse, but here we go into the pits for our one and only pit stop of the Grand Prix at the end of lap 21. Over half race distance gone. You can see that there's a big old train and queue of cars here coming around, and a lot of them, or some of them, sorry, are coming into the pits. A Renault and a Mercedes, by the look at things. So Hamilton is in, and that looks like Sainz, I believe, is in. So they're coming in for their second pit stop of the Grand Prix. And like I say, this is going to be me ahead of them. Brendan Hartley now comes past on super soft tyres. He's definitely completed his one and only pit stop as well. And we're now behind the Toro Rosso man as Raikkonen, race leader Raikkonen, goes through the Neuville chicane. That's now how far behind the leader we are, considering that 10 or so laps ago, we were right behind him off a safety car, but now we've got the grip. We've got fresh ultra soft tyres to get us through to the end of this Grand Prix, and the tyres are fresh. We've now got insane amounts of grip, and there are cars in the pit lane making their final pit stop of the race. There is Valtteri Bottas just coming out the pits now, so we're ahead of him, who was behind us coming through or coming out the pit lane. So effectively, Hartley is going to the end of this Grand Prix. So Hartley is effectively ahead of me in this race here. One of the Red Bulls is still ahead as well, but I'm unsure if they still have another pit stop to make. I'll be able to see what tyre they're on if I can get past Brendan Hartley, which is exactly what I'm trying to do here into the Mirabeau. Jeez, that was a late braking move. Hartley was turning in. I'm so lucky to have not taken any damage off of that move, but I think it's clear to show me there that Brendan Hartley was probably in the net P3 at that point. So, and then Verstappen, one of the other cars, Leclerc and Van Dorn come in on the ultra soft tyre. So they are now finished with those tyres, and Alonso ahead of me as we set a 13.2, which was my best lap of the Grand Prix for that lap. Another lap fully released. We go into the 12s, a 112.3. This is now the pace that we can set, and Alonso ahead of me on super soft tyres. He started the race on ultras because he was P10 on the grid. We finally caught up to him on lap 26. I do believe Alonso has another pit stop left to make in this race. But, of course, we shouldn't really let that deter us from our charge. We should try and get past the McLaren man if we can. And we can get so close up behind him during the first sector. Just the superior grip that we have on our fresher ultra soft tyres. But my one opportunity to get past him would be out of Portier into the Nouvelle chicane. And I just haven't got the traction. I don't know what it is about my setups or my playstyle, but I just drop so far back from everyone going down here. And then I have to spend the whole final sector trying to catch them again, to be able to try and line up a move for the next lap. But you see Alonso now ahead of me. Raikkonen still leads. Vettel P2. Alonso ahead of me in third place. May have to pit again. I'm nearly 2 seconds off my personal best pace here at this point. I'm taking huge chunks out of the curb to try and keep me up close behind Alonso so I can just get some DRS. At this point I've decided to save fuel and ERS. I've got a poor exit due to mounting the exit curve there. And Alonso's just staying ahead. There's Jeff just giving us a quick update about the leader there. So that's a lap. That would have been a regular lap behind Alonso for the Monaco Grand Prix for about, like I say, since about lap 23 at that point. So realistically, we're now just trying to close in on Fernando. Can we try and make a move stick? If we're going to do it anywhere, like I say, it's Nouvelle chicane, or can I try and make that move that I always seem to make every Monaco Grand Prix into Rascasse? We're going to need to be closer than ever coming through the swimming pool to be able to pull it off, as of course the engine wear goes down and we're just dropping back all the time. In fact, Hartley and Bottas are coming back at us now, and the gap is closing due to how slow Alonso is making me go. But now later on into lap 30, I've been behind Alonso for about 6 or so laps now, and due to my own traction I can't appear to make a move, but we're closing on him. We've had a brilliant run through the swimming pool. We do tap the back of the McLaren, but here we go into Rascasse. Perfectly measured move. There was the width of a Formula 1 car and nothing more to get through, and that is exactly what I needed to do to get past Fernando Alonso. And he's still going to remain there in P4 on super soft tyres. If he needed to pit and change tyres, if he's doing it any minute now, he will go onto the hyper soft tyre and be probably the fastest car on circuit at the end of the Grand Prix. But we now take a big cut later, and Alonso's still going round, and I don't think he would pit at this point of the Grand Prix. So Alonso clearly was planning to go to the end on those super soft tyres, but we're now like 35 seconds back from Sebastian Vettel. We are a long way behind the leaders. Our pace hasn't been great. It's been our strategy that's got me to where I am, and having a tyre advantage on those around us like Hartley and Alonso. But we're not out of the woods yet, because like I say, my pace hasn't exactly been electric. I'm now free of Alonso. I am the car in fresh air, and I'm still in the 1 minute 14s. So I think I'm pretty much just trying to protect the car up to the end of the Grand Prix and just making sure. I mean, that was a 15.7 on lap 38. I'm just don't want to stick it in the barriers, you know. But we're now on to the final lap of the Monaco Grand Prix, as Jeff confirms on the radio. And this is just one of those ones where I'm going to get a podium around the Principality. It goes to show how well this car is doing, regardless of what I've said about my pace. Kimi Raikkonen wins the Monaco Grand Prix of Season 2. Congratulations to him, and Vettel's going to bring it home for a Ferrari 1-2 very soon. But regardless of what I've said about my pace, it goes to show that with a correct strategy, and, you know, I have issues out of traction zones, but with the right strategy and with some bold overtakes, you can definitely get your way up the field. Probably some debris of a Haas that I buried into the Nouvelle chicane there of Kevin Magnussen. And we come through to back.
We're not going to be able to run in this engine mode much longer. We're about a lap over target. Drop down to mix too soon.
I don't really think I need to worry about that, Jeff, as we come through Rascasse. up through Anthony Nogues. It's been a lap of the legendary Monaco Grand Prix circuit. We charge towards the line to see the checkered flag, and it's another podium.
Top job, my friend, top job. I was a bit worried about this one at the start of the weekend, but you pulled through. Thank you.
So, here they come now, out onto the podium. Wherever you go, anywhere in the world, the prancing horse flags are dominant in the grandstands, and they're out in force again today. It's Ferrari on the top step once more.
Kimi Räikkönen, of course, as I said before, wins the Monaco Grand Prix, and Sebastian Vettel brought it home for P2, 1-2 for Ferrari around the Principality. Then myself, first of the one-stoppers there in P3. Valtteri Bottas picks up a couple of places as Alonso had a time penalty, so Alonso drops to P5. Brendan Hartley, though, P6 for the one-stop in the Toro Rosso, and Gasly benefiting from that as well in P7. More double points for Toro Rosso and brilliant double points for them as well. Grosjean comes home in half. Sorokin picking up some much needed points for Williams there. And of course Lewis Hamilton brings it back in 10th. Carlos Sainz did 3 stops in the end and ended up in P11. And Sergio Perez there 2 stops back down in 12th. Penalties are plenty throughout the field by the looks of it there for the Monaco Grand Prix. So interesting stuff. I don't know, would Perez, that was a 5-second penalty. He might have been in the points before that penalty was applied. Verstappen ended up in P14 and the Red Bulls threw it away. Daniel Ricciardo finished down in 18th place. Hulkenberg down in 7th. I mean, Ericsson even on the one-stop couldn't get out there. Magnussen, of course, the last of recorded finish. In fact, everyone finished the race. So Raikkonen, with that result, jumps back up to P3 in the driver's standings, but we go up to P4, surpassing Max Verstappen. Perez down to 7th in the standings. We're sort of leading Perez behind a little bit there. But Vettel streaking away now has 2 race victories in points. A whole 50 points ahead of Lewis Hamilton after 6 rounds of the Formula 1 season. Vettel is looking dominant this year. So I can't remember who won the Season 1 championship, but I'm pretty sure it was a Ferrari driver. So looking like it might be another year of a Ferrari victory unless someone can come out and get a shock result. And Ferrari, you see, they're 69 points clear of the Mercedes team, and we are only 11 points behind. You know, the B team, as it were, up behind Mercedes there with their junior driver heading it up and getting a podium finish here with Red Bull 86 points, Renault 48. Then Toro Rosso jump ahead of McLaren, 18 points to 15 there. Haas up to 6th and up to 6 points, 8th in the standings, tied with Williams. Then Sauber at the back still with 0 points. But let's have a chat with Claire about Monaco.
Good day today. Tell us about it from your perspective. You gained a lot of positions during the race, didn't you?
Absolutely. It was down to the strategy and the power of our car.
You must be happy with the result today.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course I'm happy with the result. To go from 11th to 3rd in Monaco just based upon an inspired strategy was brilliant.
You really looked in control of your car out there. Your team must be thrilled.
Debatable. There were a couple of slides here and there, and you know, the scuffs and scrapes of Magnussen, but you know, I couldn't do anything without the great team that I have.
It wasn't the cleanest race today, was it?
Yeah, sort of going on from my comments that I just made regarding Magnussen. I mean, you know, we had a couple of incidents down into the Novo chicane. Not 100% sure on what happened, but
everything.
You know what people say about Kevin, right? You know, real life Kevin, you know, maybe it trickled into his AI, as it were. But we're now here on the chart, 1,360 resource points. Now, we could go for a minor engine power upgrade now that we have the best engine on the grid, but that's all we've gone for so far. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at a couple of fuel upgrades, fuel consumption upgrades, just be a little bit better on the car, essentially. That's sort of what I'm weighing up at the moment. We've got enough of our morale modifier to be able to get the failure reduction chance down 7% and the price is reduced by 14%. So I'm sort of umming and ahhing. I'm like, do I go up there so I then can potentially unlock 3 ultimate upgrades? Or do I just go for the fuel upgrades? Because we're going to have some very fuel-heavy circuits coming up in Canada and Austria and France, you know. So when we're going to be using a lot of our engine power on the straight. So I ended up going for the 2 fuel consumption upgrades. I think in the short term they're going to be a big benefit. Those ultimate upgrades can come later on. Plus I don't really want to spaff all those points at the risk of potentially a like a department change and it being the powertrain, and then we're screwed. So kind of 50-50 in my mind as to why I've done it. You know, the ultimate upgrade to power would be brilliant, but I think the fuel upgrades in the short term will be very beneficial to us. But that has been the Monaco Grand Prix. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you have enjoyed. Leave a like if you didn't. Comment any feedback down below. Another podium for us. So, you know, after P2 in Baku, and then we got P5 or 4 in Spain. I can't remember. It was only the last Grand Prix. I'm terrible. And P3 here in Monaco. Coming up next is Canada, one of my absolute favourite tracks. It's top 3 for sure. And we can hopefully do something special there. I'd really like for us to pull something out of the bag at Canada. Because it's one of those tracks, like, you know, when you talk about rookie seasons and young drivers, you know, it's where Kubica got his first win and Hamilton got his first win. So let's see what we can get up to in Canada. Please remember to subscribe and enable the notifications if you want to be kept up to date with the content that comes to the channel. And I will see you all next time.